Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's English file lesson. My name is Karabo C. This lesson is brought to you by Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Saibono Discovery. Grade 12 learners, we have a WhatsApp number. It's an interactive number. You can post your questions there and we will respond to you in due time. The number is 064 748 8913. Our focus today is Cry the Beloved Country. Cry the Beloved Country is one of our novels, prescribed novels. Remember, we have two novels, Cry the Beloved Country and A Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You'll be interested to know that at the end of the year, when you write your exam, or in June, when you write your exam, English file paper 2, you will be sitting for a 2.5 hours paper. And this is what is going to happen. You are going to have 32.5 minutes on the first extract that you are going to write on. It will be out of 17 marks or 18 marks. The second extract also will be 32.5 minutes, which will be 17 marks or 18 marks. So what does that mean? It means for every genre, you have 75 minutes to utilize. How many marks are you working for? You are working for 35 minutes per genre. At the end of the session, you shall have written for 70 marks. That is our English file paper 2. Today, by the end of the session, you should know the following. You should have the detailed summary of the novel. You should be able to identify the elements in a novel. And those elements you will be able to link back to Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and our novel that we're treating today, which is Cry the Beloved Country. What are those elements? Number one will be the setting. We will also touch on the characters, tone, figures of speech, themes, open-ended questions, and we will look at various exemplars on how to answer questions in an exam or classwork setting. If you are able to do that, you can also pose questions where we are going to respond to you. Okay. Cry the Beloved Country. Who wrote it? Alan Paton. And who is this author, Alan Paton? He was born in 1903 in South Africa, in Pietermaritzburg. He died on 12 April 1988. Let's look at his earlier years. He graduated with a distinction in physics from the university. And he joined the South African Institute of Race Relations in 1930. At the age of 32, he became the principal of a reformatory school. And what is a reformatory school? It is a school for delinquent young people. In this case, it was only meant for African young boys in Johannesburg. So a reformatory is where young offenders are kept for rehabilitation processes. He writes a series of articles on crime, punishment, and reform in South Africa. So he wrote extensively about crime, what constitutes crime, stories about crime, and stories about punishment, as well as how to reform or to rehabilitate young people in South Africa. He further exposed the apartheid oppressions. He fought for a just and democratic society that we are enjoying today. He was posthumously awarded the Order of Ikamanga in gold for his exceptional contribution to literature on the 20th of April in 2006. On this picture here, who do we see? We see an old man, a white man there. His name is James Jarvis. And we have on the other side a man called Stephen Khumalo, who is also a priest. Now, young people, I want you to listen to this video about setting. Okay. Listen to the video about setting. I seem to have technical problems. Welcome back, grade 12. Let's listen to the video now.
Where are we? Huh? I'm sitting, leaning, living, breathing, thinking about the book that I finished reading. I dug the characters and liked the plot. Was anything else important? Probably not. Wait, what about the setting? The setting is the one I'm always forgetting. It gives us the where and the when, but it's mostly in the background. Know what I'm saying? Actually, maybe not. The setting might be more important than I thought. Here's the character, his name is Todd, and here's some action that's a part of the plot. Todd clenched his jaw, he was sweating. Now how could that be informed by the setting? Well, let's say he's on the track at a race, you infer he's running, trying for first place. But what if we switch up the setting? There might be a different reason Todd is sweating. Say he's in class, sitting at a desk. You might infer schoolwork's causing him stress. Or what if he was on a ship going down? Fear is the reason he's sweating now. Yup, setting can reveal conflicts and plots, plus it provides context. I'm betting you know where and when is the sitting at a desk. The mood and themes that we're getting. Todd clinched it, and the plot the author is talking that being informed by the setting. I'm betting. Well, let's say he's on the where and when is the infer he's running. The mood and themes that we're getting. But what if in the plot the author is telling are informed by the setting? The setting can inform the mood and the theme, like a score adds a feeling to a movie scene. If the setting is a cliffside drive with a nice new ride under bright blue skies, the theme might be exploration or freedom, and there's already a mood I'm feeling, a mood of hopefulness and excitement from the setting the author's writing. Good authors choose settings with care. They don't pick a random place and put their story there. Like when Odysseus is trapped in the cave with a cyclops who wants to eat him up right away. Why did the author choose a cave? He wanted Odysseus to be trapped, okay? He could have chosen a locked room, but a cave's gloom feeling sets a darker mood. And it allows Odysseus to hide in the dark until he blinds the cyclops and then sneaks off. The setting of the cave was key to the plot and conflict, the mood and themes. So the next time you read a book, at the setting is where you need to look. And when you write, choose a setting with care. Think mood, theme, and plot, and not just where. I'm betting you know where and when is the setting. The mood and themes that we're getting, and the plot the author is telling are informed by the setting. I'm betting you know where and when is the setting. The mood and themes that we're getting, and the plot the author is telling are informed by the setting. A story needs a setting like the summer needs heat, like yards need feet, EDM need a beat, like a butcher needs meat, and a dentist needs teeth, like wool needs a sheep, like a press needs a beat, like a lock needs a key, like a bird needs a beak, like a day needs a week, like a curse needs a bleep on TV. A repeat needs a repeat, a repeat needs a repeat, a repeat needs a repeat.
Yes, Leonard, that is setting. Normally we ask ourselves, what is setting? And we're better to know it is not something that is just put in the book. It is something that the author uses intentionally. And we ask ourselves a question, where are we? Where are you now? That's the setting that you are at. Let's look at Cry the Beloved Country setting. It has a particular importance in the story. We have two places there. We have a place in Indochina, divided into two. One part is well tended, and the other part is red and bare. The other one is green. It's well tended. There's water. But this other one at Indochina, it is red, it is bare. It's a sign of something that we will discuss later. When you speak of setting, the first thing that you must think of is place. Our place is in Indochina. It is a peaceful and primitive area in the rural area. It is a beautiful place filled with hills and valleys, but the soil is of poor quality. Ndocheni is a poor agricultural village, but with a strong sense of community and spiritual connection. The grass and corn are no longer flourishing, forcing the men to go into the city to find work. And where's the city? The city is Johannesburg. What is happening in Johannesburg? It's a complicated and dangerous city where it is every man for himself. It represents the evil forces that try to draw us all away from the things we know right. The sense of community that we find in the rural areas is not there in the city. Once we get caught up in life of sin, it's almost impossible to come back. You can see there, we have men fighting. And in the rural area, what we have vegetation, even though in this instance, the vegetation is red and it's bare. There's no life. That's the reason people ran to the city. What is the structure of the beloved country? It is divided into 3 books. Book 1, Book 2, and Book 3. In Book 1, we have chapters 1 to 17. And it captures the story of a Zulu pastor who is named Stephen Khumalo. Khumalo undertakes a journey from the rural village of Ndocheni, and he goes searching for his son in Johannesburg. His son named Absalom. Stephen is the main character, and the book follows his journey as he makes difficult discoveries in Johannesburg. Book 2 starts from chapter 11 to chapter 12. Here we find the story of a man called James Jarvis. Who is James Jarvis? James Jarvis is the owner of the farm that is placed below Ndocheni, where the grass is green and well tended. Jarvis is currently watching the valley of Ndocheni admiringly. The innocence and the relaxed atmosphere of the area. As he is enjoying his farm, people come in, they interrupt him. There's a car coming, and voila, a presence of the policeman. The policemen's names are Van Jaarsveld and Benedict. Please don't forget the names of the policemen. The police inform him that his son, Arthur Jarvis, they bring bad news, isn't it, has been shot and killed. Jarvis quickly rushes to Johannesburg with his wife. He learns to understand his son's lifestyle. It's the best for him. He knows that his son is working and staying and living in Johannesburg, but he did not know the depth of his son. When in Johannesburg, he attends the trial of the perpetrators who killed his son. In this book, again, 2 lives are intertwined by fate. Let's see.
You need not be in fear of me. I shall not be angry.
This thing that is the heaviest of all my years is the heaviest thing of all your years also.
That can only mean one thing.
Quickly rushes
But I
to Johannesburg with
still
his wife.
do not understand. I shall not be angry.
It was my son that killed your son.
Learners, we have just listened to the clip where two men meet for the first time and their lives are interwoven by fate. And what is this fate? Jarvis and Kumalo meet each other by accident. That is in book 2. The two fathers, one of the victim, then the other of the perpetrator, eventually find their lives and grieve intertwined as they both try to understand their son's actions. And who is this James Jarvis? He's the father of the victim. He embarks on a journey to understand his son after his death. He realizes that his son has become a stranger to him. He thought he knew his son, but in vain. We have the second man, Stephen Kumalo, the father of Absalom, who is the perpetrator. He also struggles to understand his son's actions. How can my son kill someone? He feels a deep sense of shame and responsibility for his son's actions. I did not bring up my son to be like this, to be a murderer. No, I refuse. He also comes to the realization that he no longer knows his son. Can you see the struggle between the two fathers? The other one, son has died, but the father did not know him that well. Then we have Stephen Kumalo, whose son is a killer, and the father is ashamed, and he does not understand his son. Book 3 starts with chapter 1 to 7. The people of Intertwined welcomes Kumalo back in Intertwined, that is after the trial. While Kumalo has been away, Intertwined has suffered a major drought. Stephen Kumalo, as a pastor, as a reverend, does what? He prays for the people of Intertwined. He prays for rain. And he also prays for his son, and he prays for his sister. Jarvis, the magistrate, and the chief planted sticks on the ground to make a dam. Jarvis goes to Kumalo's church to escape from the rain. Jarvis and Kumalo have a short conversation regarding Absalom. And then the two men show their understanding of each other. Remember, they met in Johannesburg, and now they come back home in Docheni, and they start to have a conversation, and they now relate more. Jarvis hires Letsitsi, who is the new agricultural demonstrator, to come and help the people of Ndotsheni and teach them how to farm. We have a bird crying there in the middle of the valley in Ndotsheni, and it is called a Titi Hoya bird. That is at the beginning of the novel. The crying of this bird shows us of the broken tribe that is in the first few chapters. That the customs and the law is broken and is gone. So there is nothing in the valley there. There's only the crying of the Titihoya. The cry, the beloved country, it means we're crying for the unborn child that is the inheritor of our fear. We're crying for our country. We're crying for those children that are not yet born, because they will only inherit the fear that we're going through. Again, the cry, the beloved country. That beloved country is where? Is in Africa, in the southern tip of Africa. And our cry always is, God, save Africa, the beloved country. So the cry part is about the crying of the bird and the broken rules. And that middle part, beloved country, what is the significance of the beloved country? We are making a prayer to God to save our beloved country. The country is disintegrating. So what do we do when the country is disintegrated? We are crying for it. So this bird, the titihoya, is part of the plover, or the black-winged plover, that is found in the KZN area, or the KwaZulu-Natal area. Okay. Let's look at the title, Cry the Beloved Country. The title demonstrates the depth of conflict between who and who? Between the people and the country. You know what conflict is? Is when things are not going right. When there is the major disagreement. So the country and its people are in a conflict. The word cry refers to who? To the people of the country who are crying for going through so many hardships. When things are not going right, what happens to the people? They cry. Also, cry can symbolize chaos and destruction that surrounds Johannesburg and that also surrounds Ndochene, which the people need to be saved from. It's not only people in the rural area who are crying. They have cried, and what did happen to them? They went to the cities to try and find better opportunities, but when they get there, they found more destruction, and that's the reason why there is a lot of tears. The people need to be saved from two areas, from the social and the racial oppressions surrounding them. It is not only the racial segregation enforced by the white people, it is also the social, how the people relate to each other, that is making life difficult for them. So it's a lot of crying in the book. This is a story or a narrative of events arranged in a sequence, and we call that what? A plot. A plot focuses on why the events are happening and the connections between them. Things do not just happen. They happen for a reason, and there is some form of connection between those things. So, we have what we call a Freytag analysis. In the Freytag analysis, we learn about the exposition, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the denouement, which is the conclusion. At the beginning of the story, what happens? We get a letter. Can you see the letter? The stamp. Who gets the letter? At the beginning of the story, a priest, again named who? Stephen Kumalo, with the wife. They are seated in their house. There's a knock at the door. Somebody comes in. These are the only two people in the house, because all other family members have disappeared. Where? Into the big city of Johannesburg. Who are those people that have disappeared to the big city? It is his sister Gertrude, his brother John, and his only son Absalom. Remember? Sister Gertrude, brother John, son Absalom. There's a knock at the door. A little girl comes in. She brings a letter from the Reverend Nsimang from Johannesburg. The letter asking him to travel to Johannesburg. Why should he travel to Johannesburg? To come and help his sister Gertrude is sick. So the brother, Stephen Kumalo, must quickly rush to Joburg. In our rising action, what happens? Kumalo makes the journey to Johannesburg and is welcomed by Nsimang, the priest, who has sent letter. Msimang tells Khumalo how Gertrude is a prostitute who has been selling moonshine and neglecting her son. Gertrude is selling herself, and she's also selling a brewed alcohol. West, Gertrude is neglecting her son. So that's a cause for concern. Khumalo finds Gertrude with Msimango's help. He tells her to pray for forgiveness. Our lovely Gertrude does not refuse the prayers. She dutifully asks for forgiveness and hands over her son to who? To Stephen Khumalo, her brother. Khumalo goes to meet John Khumalo, the brother, who is a shopkeeper as well as a politician. John is an opportunist person. He takes advantage of any opportunity that throws itself in his way. He is not guided by principle whatsoever. He takes advantage of people's frustrations to get power and attention for himself. John gives directions to Stephen Khumalo about Absalom's whereabouts. At the climax of the story, what do we find? Msimang and Khumalo goes to Shantytown to look for Absalom. Remember, he got the directions from who? From John. Khumalo's son had fallen into with a bad crowd, and he started stealing. They find out that Absalom impregnated a girl. Khumalo's third search for his kid finally ends in prison, where he is incarcerated. In prison, Absalom is waiting for his trial for the murder of Arthur Jervis, who is James Jervis's son. Khumalo goes to Absalom to hear why Absalom committed such a crime. How did I raise you, my son? You are a priest's son. How dare you kill another human being? He knows that it means the death penalty, and there is no chance to restore his family. During the olden days, when you commit murder and kill someone, the only appropriate sentence was a death penalty where they hang you. So he thought when he goes to Johannesburg, he will be able to restore his family. He will find Gertrude, and Gertrude will come back with him. He will find John, and John will come back with him. Unfortunately, that did not happen. From that point on, he behaves more understanding towards his son, and he sympathizes with him. At first, he was very angry, and he questioned himself, what kind of a father am I? How did I raise a murderer? Our Gertrude, remember, she was told to pray and ask for forgiveness, and she did exactly that. But not for long. What did she do? She abandons her child and runs away, leaves the child with her brother, Stephen Khumalo. John refuses to apologize to Khumalo, and he even threatens the brother and says, get out of my house, get away, go away. Khumalo returns home with Gertrude's son and Absalom's wife. He did right by Absalom's wife. When he found out that the girl was pregnant, he arranged, that is Stephen Khumalo, arranged that Absalom and the girl marry, and he takes away that wife back to Ndochene. A dutiful father, isn't it? Absalom is sentenced to death. Khumalo meets the victim's father, Arthur Jarvis, and they become friends. Jarvis works with Khumalo to improve the conditions in the village. So their lives became intertwined. The death of Jarvis' son brought better conditions, ironically, to the people of Ndochene. Absalom is hanged. The past tense would be hung. I hung my coat on the peg. Hung. I hung a person. A person is hanged. So you can see we've given you vocabulary. As you learn, as you read, please, boys and girls, remember in the stories that we read, we need to check also the vocabulary and the grammar. Stephen Khumalo journeys to the mountain to pray for his son. In the middle of the night, he goes up, a broken father. He looks up and he knows that the clock is ticking and I will never see my son again. He is hanged. The novel ends with the dawn. So in the morning, the sun rises and Stephen Khumalo prays for South Africa. That even though my son has passed, has been hanged, I will fight for my country. Let's look at the characters in deep. We have our Stephen Khumalo. What kind of a person is he? Much as we enjoy the story, boys and girls, at some point as you read the story, I know you will have your clinics where you are going to dab your tears because this is a very emotional story. But remember, we have to analyze the story in depth. Let's see who is this person, Reverend Stephen Khumalo. He is a protagonist. He's the main character. With all that we have read so far, how do we characterize him? He is a caring man. He loves and cherishes his family. Even though God would have disgraced him twice. One, he disgraced the family by running away. Gertrude went to Johannesburg to look for her husband, but he fell into the ways of Johannesburg. She became a prostitute, and then she ran away from the brother, left or abandoned her son. One, for going against Christian principles. Going against Christian principles is selling alcohol and being a prostitute. Second, for leaving his son behind. Khumalo still prays for her. So we find out that Khumalo is a very caring man. He is also a very humble man. How do we know that? He is quiet, humble, with a strong faith in God, and a clear sense of right and wrong. He knows what is right and he knows what is wrong, and he has his faith in God. The next person the other character of Reverend Stephen Khumalo is that he is impatient and very aggressive. Much as he is caring and humble, he's very impatient and aggressive. There are at times where he erupts in anger, and he has some form of aggression in him. He is also naive. He knows little about the world outside his little parish. He didn't know what's going to happen in Johannesburg, isn't it? He only knew that he's going to Johannesburg. Remember how he was, his money was taken away from him by some young men. The next person is James Jarvis. He's a white farmer who lives on a hill above Ndocheni. He's a very indifferent person. What is being indifferent? Indifferent meaning, I knew there was a place called Ndocheni, and I know that black people are there. But do I care? No, that is not troubling me. It's not my business to know about the suffering of black people. So that's the reason we say he was indifferent, because it did not touch him as such. This all changes when he learns that his son has been murdered. When he realized that his son has been murdered, he wanted to know more about what is happening in this life. He goes to stay with his sons-in-law, the Harrisons, in Johannesburg. This is where he learns who his son really is. He only knew that he has a son who is married, who has a son also, but he didn't know much more about his son. His son was a leader in social justice for all races. He fought for the black people. And for that makes Jarvis very sad. By the thought that while his son was alive, he never really knew him. He didn't know what he was all about. In an attempt to understand his son better, Jarvis reads Arthur's writings. Arthur Jarvis was not just only a social activist or fighting for the black people. He also wrote a great deal. And how did James Jarvis know his son? He had to sit down. He had to read his manuscripts. He had to know what he is all about. And when he read what his son wrote, he just became aware of all the injustices that were made or that were done to the other part of South Africa, the black people. These readings made him to made him very sad, because his son's ideas were passionate. He was a very kind man. At the beginning, he was indifferent. He didn't know anything about his neighbors in Ndocheni. He knew that they were staying up the mountain and he was staying down. And up in the mountain, there was no water like what he had down in the valley. He works hard to improve things for the village or the village people in Ndocheni. And that is what his son did for him. What aspects did he do? He donates milk to the young children and arranges to build a dam so that the soil can become better. That's being kind, isn't it? Yes. He further employs or hires an agricultural expert to teach the farmers so that life can be better. When his wife dies, he carries out her wish that a new church be built in the chain. Though Jabez is a man of little words, his actions speak for him, and he is now a changed man. So he now understands his son better. Stephen Khumalo also understands his son better. The other main character here is Theophilus Msima, the priest who wrote the letter. I hope you remember. He becomes a good friend of Stephen Khumalo, and he helps him through the tough times in Johannesburg. He writes a letter to call him to Johannesburg. He gives him accommodation. He finds him accommodation. He gives him money. He goes through thick and thin with Stephen Khumalo. He is a priest working in the corrupted city, is able to open Khumalo's eyes to see past troubles in the chain. Then we have our young man who brought us to Johannesburg. Who is he? Absalom Khumalo. He left a long time ago to find his aunt, but he never returned to Johannesburg. Absalom is found at rock bottom. He's now guilty of murder. He is the main person who creates the biggest conflict in the novel. Next we have Arthur Jarvis. Can you see we won't have Cry the Beloved Country if we don't have Stephen Khumalo and James Jarvis. We will not have Cry the Beloved Country if we don't have Absalom Khumalo and Arthur Jarvis. Arthur Jarvis being the victim, Absalom being the perpetrator. We never get to see Arthur alive in action, but we are able to see his powerful stance through the letters and speeches he leaves behind. Arthur, a young white man who fights for the native justice, the original people of the country, in this instance, the Black people. He has a very powerful legacy that continues throughout the novel and have a strong impact on his father. Remember the father who was very indifferent? Tends to become a father who is now caring, who is looking after his neighbors in Indochina. Then we have our master, Mr. John Khumalo. John Khumalo is Stephen's brother who left the village a long time ago. He did not like the tribal ways. He did not like the old-fashioned ways of the people in the village. He is now a powerful businessman and a speaker, and we soon learn that he lacks courage. In addition to his cowardice, he is prideful and also egotistical. He is very self-centered. He only cares about himself. How do we know that? When Absalom and his son were arrested, what did he do? he got a lawyer and he told his son, deny everything that you were with Absalom. You don't know anything about the murder. And remember, it is his brother's son. It is his child's cousin. But he decided to leave him in the lurch. Now let's go to the book itself and see what we can find there when we read. We have extract A here. Khumalo looked at the letter. It is at the beginning of the book. Khumalo looked at his letter. It was dirty, especially about the stamp. It had been in many hands. No doubt it came from Johannesburg. Now there in Johannesburg were many of his own people. His brother John, who was a carpenter, had gone there and had a business of his own in Sophiatown, Johannesburg. His sister, Gertrude, 25 years younger than he, and the child of his parents' age, had gone there with her small son to look for the husband who never came back from the mines. Remember, Johannesburg is the city of gold, and people migrated from the rural areas to go find better place, to go find work in the mines. So it's Gertrude's husband, but he never came back. His only child, Absalom, had gone there to look for his aunt Gertrude, and he never came back. So the first question, after reading this extract, boys and girls, I want us to look at the questions that can be said on that extract. Describe the setting. Refer to line 1. Khumalo looked at this letter. It was dirty, especially about the stamp. What does this letter reveal about the lifestyle of the people who live in the country? I want you to further check the symbol that stand for the letter as well as the stamp. How can we describe the setting? The setting would be, it is in the Khumalo's home or kitchen when the young girl came to deliver what? The letter. What does this letter reveal about the lifestyle of the people who live in the country? Let's look at it. The letter is not delivered by a postman. It is delivered by who? By the young girl. And the letter is dirty. What does it say? It has moved from one hand to the other. So probably the letter was delivered at a shop, at a nearby shop. And the letter was given to the girl to run to Khumalo's home and deliver it. The letter shows that it is from where? From Johannesburg. How do we know that the letter is from Johannesburg? Because of the postage stamp. It shows that it's from Johannesburg. When you look again at the extract, you look at the setting. The setting is in the Khumalo's home. And we have a symbol there, the letter, which shows a Pandora's box. You know what a Pandora box is? You don't know what is in the box. If he opens that letter, there could be news, terrifying news. Therefore, he is afraid. He holds on to the letter, but he does not want to open. He is really scared about the letter, that it might bring him very bad news. And indeed, many other relatives were there, though none so near as this. It was hard to say from who this letter came. Again, a Pandora box. It did not show, or it did not say who the letter came from. We only know about the postage stamp that it is from Johannesburg. For it was so long since any of these had written, that is, his son, his sister, his brother did not write. He turned the letter over, but there was nothing to show from whom it came. What does it show? A sense of hesitation, a sense of panic, because he wanted to know what is inside the letter, but he was scared to do what? To just open and read. He was reluctant to open it. For such a thing is opened, it cannot be shut again. When you open a Pandora box, can you close it? No. So the events will unfold in a huge speed. So he knows, perhaps I should rather have this letter closed than to have it open, and I cannot take it, the contents back. I must follow suit of what is happening. He called to his wife. Has the child gone? No, father. She is eating. Then Stephen says, let her eat then. Then he says to the wife, she brought a letter. Do you know anything about a letter? Then the wife responds, how should I know, Stephen? I haven't opened the letter. The letter is in your hand. No, that I do not know. Look at it. She took the letter and she felt it, as if trying to decipher who the letter is from. Are you going to be able to know who the letter is from by merely touching it? That is the Pandora box that we are talking about. But there was nothing in the touch of it. There was nothing in the touch of it to tell from whom it might be. She read out the address slowly and carefully. Let's look at the points that we can discuss. State one difference in the attitude of Stephen and Mrs. Khumalo. Mrs. Khumalo is matter of fact, isn't it? Stephen Khumalo is what? Is hesitant and reluctant to do it, to open the letter. So the wife asked, I will not know if we haven't opened the letter. What does this extract reveal about the character of Stephen and Mrs. Khumalo? Mrs. Khumalo is matter of fact. Stephen Khumalo is a bit jittery and hesitant. questions that we can ask again is the tone. What tone would Stephen Khumalo use in this line when he sent, "Do you know where the letter is from?" Then we see some form of what? Hesitance and concern. Why would Stephen Khumalo use this tone? Because he's afraid of what the letter is all about, or what is it bringing to him. What theme? Can we identify the theme in that extract? And can we discuss that theme? I'm going to leave the theme to you. It's the theme of abundance. Yeah. Okay, now let's look at another extract. Yes, it was to the small, serious boy that he turned for his enjoyment. He had brought the child some cheap wooden blocks, and with this, the little one played endlessly and intently with a purpose to obscure the adult mind, but completely absorbing. Khumalo would pick the child up and put his hand under the shirt to feel the small, warm back and tickle and poke him. Till the serious face relaxed into smiles, and the smiles grew into uncontrollable laughter. Or he would tell him of the great valley where he was born, and the names of the hills and rivers and the school that he would go to. Here, further, it's when Stephen Khumalo is in Johannesburg and he is playing with a child. You remember whose child is this? And he bought the child some cheap wooden blocks. This is Gertrude's son. That gave him some comfort that even when I'm in the valley of the shadow of death and I'm going through trouble, at least this little person is giving me some form of hope. He told the child about the school that he will go to when they get to Ndochene, and that gave him some form of pleasure. Of that child understood nothing, yet something he did understand, for he would listen solemnly to the deep, melodious names and gaze at his uncle out of wide and serious eyes. And this to the uncle was a pleasure indeed, for he was homesick. He's in the middle of Johannesburg. He's going from trial after trial. But this little person who is listening to him innocently and attentively, as he speaks of the places in the journey with melodious names, and he's gazing at his uncle with wide eyes and serious eyes, very intent and listening, very serious. And this gives the uncle some form of pleasure. He was homesick. He wanted to go home to Ndochene, where he can find solace and comfort. And something inside him was deeply satisfied by this recital. Describe the setting again of this extract, time and place. It is at the house. It is at Mrs. Ditebe's house when Gertrude ran away, and Stephen is left with Gertrude's son. You are going to identify the figure of speech. There's no, every time you read an extract, please take on the figures of speech. Explain what the great city refers to. The great city refers to Johannesburg. Explain why Khumalo is homesick. He's not used to be in a city, in the big city, and moreover, he's going through deep trouble. The trouble that he has a fallout with his brother, John. His sister Gertrude has run away. His son is in prison. So he can't wait to go home, isn't it? Let's look at the following. In extract E, sometimes Gertrude would hear him and come to the door and stand shyly there and listen to the tale of the beauties of the land where she was born. That is before she could run away. So as the brother was telling stories to the little boy, Gertrude would listen, and I thought maybe think of how she would react with nostalgia. She will look back and say, I'm also homesick. I want to go home. This enriched his pleasure. And sometimes he would say to her, do you remember? And she would answer, yes, I remember. And be pleased that he had asked her. Probably, Stephen was saying, as I'm communicating with her, maybe this will make her want to come home with me to see those beautiful places that she has left. What does this extract tell us about Gertrude's state of mind when she stood by the window and listened to the story? At this point, I think her state of mind was that of elation. She was very glad. And that gave her comfort, didn't it? That, look at my brother. Look at my son. There is a bond that is forming between them. I'm at a place of peace. Much as I want to go home, this is the point where I can now sneak out and run. My son is in good hands. My son has made has formed a bond with the uncle. So I believe it is at that point where Gertrude made up her mind to run away. What does this extract reveal about Stephen Khumalo's character? He is caring, like we said. He is caring, he's kind, he's nurturing, he's a father. Let's look at another point that we can check on. Arthur Jarvis' death is in vain. No. You can answer yes or no. Did he die in vain? No, he did not die in vain. Because what happened is, when he died, Ndocheni found peace. There was a resurrection of his thoughts and energies. Plowed back in the village of Ndocheni. Let's go to extract F. So they rose to separate. And Father Vincent put his hand on the old man's arm. Be of good courage, he said. Whatever happens, your son will be severely punished. But if his defense is accepted, it will not be extreme punishment. Father Vincent in Johannesburg put his hand on Stephen Khumalo's arm and said, "Be of good courage. Whatever happens, your son will be severely punished. We know that. But if his defense, remember his defense is, I killed him by mistake. When he came through the kitchen door, I became scared and I shot at him. I did not mean to kill him." That is now always in my mind, said Khumalo, but my hope is little. "Stay here and speak with me," said Father Vincent. "And I must go," said the young white man. "But Mfundisi, I am ready to help if my help is needed." So as you continue reading, these are the things that we need to look at. Refer to that lens. Whatever happens, what is the defense that Father Vincent is referring to? The defense is when the court agrees that it was not an intentional death, that I did not murder Arthur intentionally. Explain what Father Vincent means by, and while there is life, there is hope for amendment of life. If he is still alive, we can go to him and he can ask for forgiveness from God. That is what he means here. Well, while there is life, there is hope for amendment, that we can ask for forgiveness and turn away from our evil ways. How does the young white man help Stephen Khumalo? He finds him an attorney, and he makes sure that Stephen Khumalo is taken good care of. When the young man had gone, Khumalo and the English priest sat down, and Khumalo said to the other, "You can understand that this has been a sorrowful journey. I understand, my friend. At first, it was a search. I was anxious at first. But as the search went on, step by step, so did the anxiety turn to fear. And this fear grew deeper, step by step. It was Alexander that I first grew afraid. But it was here in your house when we heard of the murder that my fear grew into something too great to be borne." Refer to these lines at first, step by step. What tone would Khumalo use in these lines? It is tone of despair, of fear, of panic that things are not going to work out as he wanted. Why would Khumalo use this tone in this lens? That as they step forward looking for him, all his hope went away. And little by little, step by step, his fears grew. One of the themes in the novel is comfort in despair. Discuss how this theme is relevant to Stephen Khumalo. He knew what was happening to his son. This you can discuss at length with your teacher. Msimang demonstrates his human principle when Stephen Khumalo is in Johannesburg. There's an open-ended question. You can also look into it. with your teacher. What are the issues that are introduced in the story so far? We have racism and segregation. As Khumalo mentions in the train to Johannesburg, all white men have their own car and they are wealthy. This shows not only emotional segregation, but also social segregation. A small percentage of the population is in possession of most of the resources and wealth. This may contribute to what? To the poverty natives are suffering from. So we have Johannesburg, which is overcrowded, it's overpopulated, and the city cannot support all the people. There is not enough housing, and slums or squatter camps are created. The places do not have proper sanitation, and the infrastructure is dirty. There are diseases and occasionally spread from these areas. So these are the issues that we deal with in our daily lives. There are minimal rights for women. The movements for women's rights took place after the anti-racism movements. During this period, women's only way of living is marriage. The situation was especially bad for Native women because they were the lowest class and they did not have anything they could do to make a living. So a lot of women ended up doing what? Resorting to selling their bodies. So I am including a worksheet that you will work through when you read the book and work out the answers here. I'm going to read the extract and the questions, and you are going to deal with those questions at a later stage. Let's read the extract taken from Book 1, Chapter 5. Mr. Mang said gravely, "Yes, she is very sick, but it is not that kind of sickness. It is another, the worst kind of sickness. I sent for you firstly because she is a woman that is alone, and secondly, because her brother is a priest. I do not know if she ever found her husband, but she has no husband now." He looked at Khumalo. It would be truer to say he said that she has many husbands. Khumalo said, Tito. She lives in Claremont, not far from here. It is one of those worst places in Johannesburg. After the police have been there, you can see the liquor running in the streets. People will throw their alcohol in the street to try and dispense of that. You can smell it, or the police will just throw the liquor away. You can smell it, you can smell nothing else. Wherever you go in that place. He leaned over to Khumalo. I used to drink liquor, he said, but it was good liquor, such as our fathers made. But now I have vowed to touch no liquor anymore. This is bad liquor here, made strong with all manner of things that our people have never used. And that is her work. She makes and sells it. It shall hide nothing. I shall hide nothing from you, though it is painful for me. These women sleep with any man for their price. A man has been killed at her place. They gamble and drink and step. The questions are, you will have column A and column B, and you match You choose a description from column B that matches the name in column A, and you only write the letter A to D next to the question number, that is 1.1.1.1 A up to D on your worksheet or answer sheet. So this question involves the characters in the book. Question number 2, describe the setting of this extract. Number 3, refer to line 7, which says, Khumalo said, Tiko, Tiko. What does this line tell us about Khumalo's state of mind? State of mind? What he is feeling. And then we're asking you to substantiate your answer, meaning you are giving us explanation why you think the state of mind of Khumalo is. You refer to lines 9 to 10. After the police in the streets, what happens? There will be a smell of alcohol, and the alcohol will be running in the streets. So you are going to identify the figure of speech and then explain it in number B. Number 5, state 2 activities in which Gertrude was involved. You know already, I'm not going to mention that, or should I mention? 1 is she's selling herself, 2 is she's selling alcohol. What does this extract reveal about Ms. Simango's character? You can substantiate, mention what do you think of Ms. Simango? Is he kind? Is he caring? Is he evil? That's for you to say. And then you substantiate your answer again, meaning you give us the reason why you think he's a kind man or he's an evil man, depending on your answer. Lastly, Stephen Khumalo's visit to Johannesburg is successful. Has this been a very successful journey? You discuss your view. You either agree and say, yes, it was a successful journey, or no, it was not a successful journey, and you give us reasons, and that's for 3 marks. At the end now, what is Cry the Beloved Country? It says, cry the beloved country for the unborn child that is the inheritor of our fear. Let him not love the earth too deeply. Let him not laugh too gladly when the water runs through his fingers, nor stand too silent when the setting sun makes the red filled with fire. We all crying for our country, isn't it? And water is running through the fingers of the people. Thank you for watching this lesson. Please read ahead of your teacher. Make sure you understand the questions, and you make sure that you are prepared for the June exam, for the prelim, and for the end of the year examinations. Thank you.